Welcome back to Opposing View, where we put two sharp minds on opposite sides of a single, thorny question. Today's motion: are morals universal or just cultural inventions? Think of morality like a compass. Some say it points north for everyone, everywhere, always. Others say it's more like a set of maps scribbled by different tribes on different days. So, are we reading one star or many lanterns? With us, Dr. Iliya arguing that there are universal moral truths, bedrock beneath the shifting sands, and Dr. Shaw arguing that morality is a cultural technology, crafted, revised, and sometimes discarded like tools in a workshop. Stay with us to the end. We'll pressure test your intuitions with quick dilemmas and a practical takeaway you can actually use in tomorrow's argument with your smartest friend. Guests: Dr. Iliya, moral philosopher focused on cross-cultural convergence and human universals. Dr. Shaw, social theorist studying cultural evolution, norms, and moral psychology. Opening statements. Dr. Shaw, for the motion, morals are cultural inventions.
Imagine morality as software running on human hardware. We share similar brains, yes, but the apps we install differ wildly. One culture valorizes filial obedience, another champions individual autonomy. The same behavior, say refusing an arranged marriage, can be praised as brave self-authorship in one society and condemned as betrayal in another. If there were a single moral operating system, how do we explain such variability? Nietzsche warned us to be suspicious of universal values, seeing them as moral genealogies, noble myths commissioned by power and fear. Good and evil aren't carved into the cosmos. They're invented labels that serve life, often the life of a particular group. A Spartan mother who celebrated her son's glorious death and a modern parent who abhors violence don't disagree about a fact. They inhabit different value ecologies. Consider three metaphors. The taste palette. Morality is like cuisine, built from universal ingredients, hunger, kinship, fear of harm, but cooked into distinct cuisines. Honor cultures, dignity cultures, face cultures. The marketplace. Norms compete. Some spread, human rights, others fade, trial by ordeal. Not because truth crowned a winner, but because coalitions, technology, and payoffs changed. The lens factory. Cultures make lenses. Look at the same act through a Confucian lens, relational harmony, or a Kantian lens, universal rule, and you see different moral realities. Anthropology is the travel diary of morality. Ruth Benedict contrasted Dionysian and Apollonian temperaments in cultures. Margaret Mead reported adolescent sexuality judged in radically different ways from Puritan norms. If these were universal laws, why so much pluralism? And when apparent universals do appear, like prohibitions on arbitrary killing, their edges are culturally carved. Who counts as a person? Which killings are just? The boundaries aren't given by nature, they're negotiated by culture. Kant's categorical imperative promises a rational route to universal law, but even Kantian followers disagree on applications. Meanwhile, Hume reminds us that reason is and ought only to be the slave of the passions. Our sentiments, schooled by culture, are the engines. So yes, we share a brain and social needs. But the moral furniture of the world is arranged by culture. Morals are not stars. They're streetlights we erected, and we move them when the road changes.
Dr. Iliya, against the motion, morals are universal.
I agree with Dr. Shaw that moral expressions vary, but variation isn't refutation. Rainforests and tundra look different, yet the biochemistry of life is shared. The question is whether beneath moral cuisines lies a nutritional science, universal constraints, and common principles. Start from the ground. Human beings are vulnerable, social, and reflective. These facts generate non-arbitrary demands. If I shove you into a river for fun, I wrong you. If I pull you out, I help you. No culture can coherently deny that gratuitous harm calls for disapproval and unprovoked aid calls for praise. Even honor cultures that endorse revenge do so because they frame it as restoring a moral order. That is, they assume harm matters, dignity matters, fairness matters. Think in three images: grammar versus language. Languages differ. Italian isn't Japanese, but all natural languages instantiate universal grammar. Likewise, moral codes vary, but they are built from a limited set of moral primitives: care/harm, fairness/cheating, loyalty/betrayal, authority/subversion, sanctity/degradation. Disagree on syntax, share the grammar, bridges and rivers. Cultures build different bridges, but bridges must distribute load, obey physics, and respect tensile strength, or they collapse. Morality is the bridge over the river of human vulnerability. There are design freedoms, but also failure modes we all recognize: cruelty, treachery, arbitrary domination. The universal patient. Across Sierras, we condemn wanton cruelty and gratuitous deceit when directed at true persons. Disputes often hinge on who counts, not whether cruelty and deceit are wrong. That distinction is crucial. Nietzsche helps us unmask hypocrisy. But the very ability to criticize slave morality presupposes standards that outstrip any one culture, like intellectual honesty, courage, and concern for human flourishing. If all morality were local, Nietzsche's critique would be just another provincial taste. Kant's universality test, act on maxims you can will as universal law, captures a deep constraint. You can't make an exception for yourself without incoherence. Even a thief doesn't want a world where stealing is a universal right. His theft relies on a background of trust. Aristotle's virtue, ethics adds texture. Human flourishing involves cultivating stable excellences, courage, temperance, justice, suited to our nature as rational social animals. The particulars vary, but the virtues themselves recur across traditions, a clue to universality. Call it convergence under pressure. When societies expand, trade, or mingle, they converge on norms like contract, promise-keeping, and limits on violence. Not because of fashion, but because function reveals truth-like constraint. Universal morality doesn't erase culture, it anchors it.
Rebuttals. Dr. Shaw.
Dr. Iliya's grammar metaphor is elegant, but it smuggles the conclusion into the premise. To call care, fairness, loyalty, authority, sanctity a universal grammar is to rebrand recurring preferences as laws. Recurrence can be explained by shared pressures. We're a social species, without positing universal oughts. Birds across continents build nests. Similar problems, similar solutions. Yet we don't claim a universal avian constitution. Take harm. Cultures construct harm differently. A satirical cartoon is harmless free speech in one place and a moral injury requiring sanction in another. Who counts is not a minor footnote. It's the whole book. If your universality depends on culturally negotiated personhood, then culture is sovereign. Kant's test falters on competing universalizations. Is it universal to tell the truth to a murderer at the door? Some say yes, others no. The test doesn't adjudicate the priority of values without importing culture. And the convergence you cite, rights, contracts, correlates with globalization, markets, coercive states, and media. Norms hitch rides on powerful infrastructures. That's spread, not proof. Nietzsche's critique stands. Moralities are historically contingent inventions. When the factory changes, the lens changes.
Dr. Iliya.
Two clarifications. First, recurrence under independent conditions is exactly how we infer structure in science. Convergent evolution suggests constraints imposed by the environment. When cultures that never met prohibit unprovoked killing, punish deceit, and praise generosity, it's evidence, not proof, but evidence of deep regularities. Second, who counts is indeed central. But showing that our circle of concern is malleable doesn't refute universals. It reveals where we fail them. The abolitionist didn't invent a new value. They applied an old one consistently, that cruelty, domination, and treating persons as mere means are wrong. The moral arc is not a random walk. It often looks like a repair process, correcting category errors about persons. Kant's murderer at the door case is a philosopher's stress test, not daily life. Practical reason adjudicates conflicts among values, as Aristotle knew, but that doesn't dissolve the values. And think of the bridge. Different designs face trade-offs. Engineers still agree that certain load calculations are non-negotiable. Moral life is bargaining under constraints. Not anything goes.
Lightning round. 3 everyday tests. Quick experiments you can try at home. The swap test. Imagine your preferred rule universally applied against you. If you flinch, you're detecting a universal symmetry constraint, a cousin of Kant's test, also found in the golden rule across traditions. Dr. Shaw's reply.
Your flinch is trained by culture. Swap tests feel different in honor versus dignity cultures.
Dr. Iliya's reply.
Training explains sensitivity, not the principle. Even a trained flinch points to a generalizable expectation of fairness.
The stranger test. If your child and 2 strangers are drowning and you can save only 2, whom do you save?
Most people choose their child. Morality is parochial. Kin bias is the default.
Parochial emotions exist, but the judgment saving more lives is better surfaces too, revealing a universalizable metric. Minimize harm.
The future you test. A norm you endorse today might trap future you. Do you still endorse it?
Future you lives in a different culture. Norms adapt.
The very appeal to future you assumes stability of reasons across time, a hint of universality.
Closing statements. Dr. Shaw.
Morality is adaptive craft. We fashion norms to coordinate, to tame conflict, to express identities, and we refashion them as our worlds change. Nietzsche bids us look behind moral curtains and ask who benefits. What you call universals are better understood as recurring solutions to recurring problems. Useful, yes. Eternal, no. If morals were stars, they wouldn't flicker so dramatically across history. Call them what they are. Cultural inventions, powerful and revisable.
Dr. Iliya.
Beneath cultural choreography lies the music, shared human vulnerabilities and rational constraints that any livable morality must respect. Cultures orchestrate differently, but the scales repeat. Don't inflict gratuitous harm. Keep your word. Treat persons with dignity. Seek fairness. Nietzsche helps us purge hypocrisy. Kant and Aristotle help us articulate the standards we were already using to criticize hypocrisy. Morality isn't a single map. It's cartography under the same sky.
Practical takeaway. When someone says, "That's just your culture," ask, is the disagreement about the value, fairness, harm, or about its scope? Who counts which cases? If it's scope, you might be in a repair conversation toward a deeper universal. If it's the value itself, you're in a design conversation about what kind of social world you want to build. Quick references and inspirations. Friedrich Nietzsche, on the genealogy of morality, moral values as historical products. Immanuel Kant, groundwork of the metaphysics of morals, universality and the categorical imperative. Aristotle, Nicomachean Ethics, Virtues and Human Flourishing. David Hume, A Treatise of Human Nature, Sentiment as the Engine of Moral Judgment. Anthropology, Ruth Benedict, Patterns of Culture, Margaret Mead, Cross-Cultural Variability. Moral Psychology, Work on Recurring Moral Foundations and Cross-Cultural Convergence, Divergence.